My name is Mike Vargas, and I'm going to be presenting Black Lives Matter at School. What is Black Lives Matter at School? Black Lives Matter at School is a national partnership which is working on putting together racial justice in the education system. They began in 2016 in Seattle, where many Seattle educators showed up to school wearing Black Lives Matter shirts in order to unite against the system. That was back when the Black Lives Matter movement was starting up a little bit, even though it started even before that time. Uh, in 2018, they began to start teaching about structural racism, intersectional Black identities, Black history, and anti-racist movements. Educators in 20 cities joined in on the Black Lives Matter at School week. So in 2018, when they were teaching about the structural racism, the intersectional Black identities, Black history, and anti-racist movements, it was a week-long thing that certain schools in certain cities taught about. And what is the goal of Black Lives Matter at School? With tons of supporters and donations, the Black Lives Matter at School organization has been able to put various resources for each and every age group for free on their website. So they have different things in their curriculum. The overall goal is to challenge racism and oppression while providing students with the tools needed in order to make this happen so that they can make a difference, so that they're educated and they're not taught what's normally taught. They have a different topic for their curriculum monthly so that students can go in and learn certain things about whatever that topic is for that month. So on the website, they had December as disability awareness, and it was learning about like disabilities and people with disabilities, people of color with disabilities in history. So there was different people, and they have a nice set of ideas to teach kids in that department. Justice is key. On their website, it talks about how there is a school to prison pipeline system that is more focused on locking up the youth instead of unlocking their minds. I believe that we shouldn't follow that one, shouldn't follow that school to prison pipeline system, because a lot of kids in school, they're not really educated about everything yet, so they're not really ready for that kind of thing. So to throw them right to prison is kind of a lot. It also states that there are harsh punishments that kick Black students out of schools, doesn't allow for them to learn about their own culture, and in their words, whitewashes the curriculum. So in that school to prison pipeline system, they kick Black students out. They can throw them in jails and potentially get their life pretty much ruined without them even really getting to experience what life is really like as a normal citizen. So that system should definitely be changed. They have four things that they feel will help change this. One, end zero tolerance, discipline, and implement restorative justice. So obviously, if someone does something wrong, it's wrong, but zero tolerance is a lot, and it should only be used in very, very certain scenarios, in my personal opinion. So in a school kind of environment, there's not really much that should be considered zero tolerance. So they shouldn't be kicked out of schools and thrown into jails and stuff like that. Two, hire more Black teachers. Pretty self-explanatory. I mean, yeah. Three, mandate Black history and ethnic studies in K-12 curriculum. Just talk more about different colors, different colored people of different people of color that have had a big impact on history in general. And four, fund counselors, not cops. So fund, pretty self-explanatory as well. Fund counselors to help those students that are being a burden to learn how to become better at managing their behavior and not doing those kind of things, instead of just throwing it at cops, where they would throw them in a jail. Technology integration. There are many partners that can be associated with this movement, and I'm sure they enjoy donating to this movement and cause. Educators can use the Black Lives Matter at School.com website to follow the curriculum and learn more about how we can improve the school system as a whole. So if an educator wanted to throw some Black history in there, they could definitely go on the website, learn about what the topic is for that month. So like before, I said December was disability, like people of color that had an impact while having a disability. So they could learn more about that and potentially teach their students. This system allows more than one type of history to be told instead of teaching everyone the same information. So the same history icons that we all learned about, we can change it. We can have more than just one type of history and learn about various different kinds of people and like big figures that really aren't talked about in today's education system. Continuing on with technology integration, presentations can be made in order to get into more detail on the Black Lives Matter at School curriculum, and teachers can use the information given on the site for free in order to inform their students about these topics that aren't normally covered. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, the curriculum that they give is pretty good. It gives a lot of information on whatever the topic is that month, and teachers can use that in whatever way. Presentations is just one of the examples you could do. You can make a PowerPoint like this or something like that to, show students, keep them engaged, and help them learn about those kinds of people. There is plenty of media coverage on the Black Lives Matter movement as a whole, and students can easily access information on the latest actions of Black Lives Matter. So Black Lives Matter is a huge movement, of course. I think we all know what it is. And the media has done a great job covering it all, being able to let us see all the corruption that the system has, and it allows for people of all colors to realize that there is discrimination in this country and that we can all do something about it. My personal opinion, overall, I like the idea of the Black Lives Matter at School concept because it can introduce kids to a different way of history from what many of us were previously taught. So, self-explanatory again. I like that there's an idea to change how history was taught and to have different kinds of known figures and change it up, not always have the same people, and learn about different kinds of different people, just different people in general that had a big impact. And then, however, I'm not sure that the history books are whitewashed. I don't want to say that the history and the education system is completely whitewashed, because there are some Black figures that we were able to learn about. There may be more white significant figures taught in history, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that the education system is blatantly targeted toward only whites. I do believe that the education system is built for everybody, but I do also believe that there needs to be more people of color involved, because the majority of people that are significant figures in history are white for sure. But I do think that I don't think it's whitewashed, but I do think that there needs to be more people of color involved in those history discussions. And there are many Black significant figures in history as well as every other race, and I do think that they should be talked about in classrooms. So going back to what I said, I know that there are more white significant figures, and I do think that there are a lot of Black significant figures that aren't talked about and aren't known by students, but there's a majority of white significant figures, so that should definitely be changed. I agree. Highlights and pitfalls. The highlights of this is free access to the curriculum and allows students that would not have previously learned about some of the great people of color in history to become more educated in that department. So, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Free access to a curriculum that would not have previously been taught. So it's very nice. Learning is always a good thing. Whenever you can learn more, it will benefit you. So there you go. And then pitfalls, not many pitfalls, just hard to implement into the educational system nationally. It'd be great if it could go to all schools across America, but that's just not realistic. It's going to have to start small and slowly get into all the history classrooms across America. And it's good that 20 cities in 2018 started that. I'm sure there's more now, and hopefully it will continue to grow so that the history so that students can learn about different types of history instead of learning the same history over and over and over again. And then the three questions for the class. What do you think about the Black Lives Matter at School organization overall? Do you think that this is good for schools across America, and do you think it should be in the educational system? Did you learn as much? Did you learn much about people of color in your history classes as a kid? Me personally, I learned about the main ones like MLK, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, those kinds of people. But overall, not as much as I should have learned about it. But it's not completely, like, there is some. And then, do you believe that the education system today is whitewashed? And I kind of gave my opinion on that. I don't think it's whitewashed. I know there are more white significant figures that are taught, even though there are just as many black significant figures. But I don't want to go as far as to say it's whitewashed, because there are certain black significant figures that are talked about. And yeah, that's my sources, blacklivesmatteratSchool.com. And yeah, thanks for watching.